Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and today we're looking at F.E.A.R. Extraction Point. This is the first expansion, back when they were called expansions and not DLC, of F.E.A.R. But it's a 2006 game that is a very weird position because it's made by a completely different company that is in basically a different timeline because the company that made F.E.A.R. itself said it was in continuing their main story in F.E.A.R 2. So you then are in this position where you have a 14-year-old, I believe actually as for recording, 15-year-old first-person shooter that may have pushed the technology quite a bit back in the day as a first-person shooter fighting robots and military men and having time slow down powers with a few jump scares here and there that, if it's anything like the first F.E.A.R game, I don't feel like we're very nicely integrated. The first F.E.A.R game in particular kind of doesn't tell a great story. But it sets up a foundation of two other sequels, so there was clearly something there. We are at a 4:3 locked ratio. There's no way to get out of that, so highest resolution I can have is 1280 by 960. The gamma seems to be right, but in the first game I definitely ended up just turning up the gamma quite a bit. VSync might need to be turned on because of just a factor of how many extra frames an RTX 2080 can push out in a game like this compared to how many frames it's expecting. Honestly, as heavily built into technology this would have been, as it was like tied into 360, and even when you load into it there's an ad for Dell XPS computers. The tying of in of technology has become a big issue. For instance, creative sound blaster cards and all these features, you can't turn them on because nobody uses these features anymore. Or if somebody does use these features, they're not built into a Realtek surround sound style audio chip that you would get on the motherboard, nor are they built into the headphone port on a Blue Yeti, which is what I'm using to actually listen to the audio. Performance wise, when it auto detects, it seems like it's alright. It put almost everything at maximum, but there definitely were some things under the advanced video card options that were not at maximum. Like FSAA was completely off. I believe light detail may have been at medium. Enable shadows was off. Soft shadows was, I think, off. No, enable shadows was on. Texture filtering was at bit linear when anisotropic 16x is probably the right move. You don't want pixel doubling. You don't want DX8 shaders because this is using DX9. You don't want to change the render resolution. So, but even when you get to that point and you click the test button, the video doesn't look particularly great, and this is very possibly just a case of the test video being too framey. In a lot of ways, it's not the lack of detail or texture that's the problem. It's the fact that this is just such an old game that the polygons you're pushing to draw a surface are very, very low. And it is kind of swinging back and forth. A lot of this environment looks a lot like F.E.A.R 1, and I wouldn't be surprised for that to be the case. But yeah, you're not going to turn a extremely old game that is designed that way you're definitely not going to be able to turn a design that way to to make it look like a modern game. This is the type of game you would definitely want to have a remaster of. And see, we look at this performance test, it's saying that it was doing 8 to 9 to maybe 10 frames per second, 100% below 25 frames per second. What could have been the thing there? Has it rolled over? And is that really what was happening? Let's turn on vertical sync. That's the only thing I could think of. And try that again. Otherwise, this may be a very quick experience in which we just say there's nothing really to be done here. Like, to me, this does not seem like 10 frames per second, because that's there's definitely a level of smoothness here that does not feel like 10 frames. So I assume what we really have is a case of the test being wrong, and that is fairly common, and why you really shouldn't trust in-game video setting tests anyways, because they tend to be fairly inaccurate and often lie. I know there's a Resident Evil test specifically that I did that claimed the game would run somewhere between 90 and 120 frames per second or so. And see, that made it even worse with vertical sync. But the actual game had engine problems and micro stuttering problems with my old video card and CPU. And CPU, like my new Ryzen CPU, would really have no justification for being slow. Like, you are talking a computer. I'm playing, this computer is like brand new, basically. It's less than 6 months old in 2020, so there's no justification for it to say that it's only getting 10 frames per second, and I'm definitely not seeing it. The other issue certainly is when you come down to difficulty, like subtitles were off by default, which I feel like it should probably be on by default or ask you. We're gonna try moderate difficulty. I might turn it down. I don't know how long I really am gonna stick with this game. If I can make it all the way through the expansion, that'd be great, but I'm not sure really. It's hard certainly to go into a game knowing that the story doesn't matter, that you're playing as a different character than the character in the main story. The controls, as far as joystick or a gamepad, I'm using an Xbox One controller, I believe it is now, plugged into the computer, and none of these controls were set by default, so everything was turned off, and I've turned them on, but I have no idea as far as what the buttons will do, because the only buttons that are being shown here are keyboard buttons and mouse buttons. So unless I literally am going to have to come into here and map each button, which I think I'm going to have to do, then that's a problem, certainly. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's just decide what buttons we want to do. A button there, and then Y button there. The movement, though, that would have to be a jump. So we want this to be jump here, and then go ahead and crouch with that button, and then we'll lean left with the D-pad, we'll lean right. Why did that not work? So yeah, the gamepad hat switch is being labeled as a analog input, which I've never seen that before. Alright, so use. I guess we'll go up on the D-pad. Let's see. Actually, let's click that button. Yes. And then do that to be crouch. And then I guess lean left has to be the right bump, left bump, and right bump. So it's pretty much no point to toggle leaning. So we'll put the throw grenade on D-pad up. Nope. Yeah, the left trigger is not triggering. Interesting. So I can't put anything there. Alright, so we've got to potentially... Let's see. To use, we'll hit B button. And then to reload, we will... No, we want reload on B. Definitely. And use on Y. And then we're going to have to lose the flashlight button. 1, 2, 3, 4. With A, with jump being A. Yeah. Just a ton of buttons here. That's not set up by default. And see, that this really makes a great argument to just jumping to the second. I'm a casual player. I'm gonna go with low difficulty. It really goes to show though that there's a good argument here to simply pressing skipping to F.E.A.R 2 where there's just better controller integration. You see, even then I don't have a I don't have a controller input that let me press the button to go forward. So we are seeing the end of the F.E.A.R story, where Point Man was the character you were playing as, gets picked up, and there's a big nuke, and we defeated Alma.
What about Alma? What happened to her? What was that sound?
And then you can see her creeping up there. See,
The war is coming. I've seen dreams. Fire sweeping bodies in the streets and cities turned to dust. Retaliation.
there's the bad guy from the main first game that really didn't play as much of a role. We can also see the subtitles are incredibly small. And we're gonna have to immediately figure out if the controller will work or not, or is this just straight up going to be a first person shooter that I have to play with a mouse and keyboard.
Small favors. I can't reach anybody on the radio. Something's blocking the signal.
Contamination. Honestly, there's an argument here to not increase your resolution at this point.
I'm fine.
Sure you are. Let's move.
Okay. Well, the first thing we don't have is we didn't connect Find your way out of the building. We didn't put the start buttons to do anything. So let's try that. Okay. Interaction, flashlight can just be the back button. And inventory, like switching between guns and using med kits and all of that. Wow, this is just not gonna work at all, is it? Like, there's so many buttons that it's not going to work at all as far as sweeping between different weapons or holster weapons, if you actually have to do that. See, all the status stuff, like, I don't think any of that matters in single player. Dropping weapons maybe doesn't matter. Yeah, I must have played the other game, F.E.A.R. 1 with... Let's see, can we melee with this? Nope. Still not letting me do it. So put the melee button on the start button? That's fairly crazy. We could put this on the start button. And then we could put the melee on that. Or is it that? Which do I want? Which one do I want melee to be? Melee, that one. And then slow motion, that one. There we go. But yeah, there's no pause button. No pause menu integration at all. Not even something you can map to. Let's see, like display size, which maybe is under performance. Nope. Was under sound. No, subtitles was not under that either. Must have been under game. Subtitles almost like should just be, I guess, completely off. Completely. There's just no reason to even have them on. I'm not gonna be able to read them. And then here you have what looks like a prioritization of weapons for the auto switch. Okay. Yeah. And controller wise, I can say that this is slightly less smooth than using a mouse. But I'm willing to... I'm kind of willing to ignore that for a while. The parts of the game that look fine. This feels like we crashed in the exact... Press use Xbox One controller. You know it didn't say that originally. So start will use the door. So we're doing a little tutorializing. Press space to jump. That's not what I did. Let's see. Press use to pick up the gun. Break or shoot the loose boards to clear this part. Alright, so which one was melee? How am I supposed to break them? Wow. That's not reacting very well. You have to have the cursor directly on it, and it is super slow. Let's see. Crouch down here. So you have to hit it on the face of it. Yeah, once again, this is a case of the game for its time being cool and looking great, but it really not standing up to stature. It's frankly just too fast. I kind of wish there was a vertical sync function, and that we should test that actually. Sorry to have to go through all these settings, but this is the experience that you're gonna have, certainly, is that do you are you gonna have a good experience, or are you gonna have a bad experience based on what settings you get. And it's nothing like a modern game where it just works. I think that's a little bit better. Although mouse is still way better controls. So, best as I can figure, am I hitting an invisible wall? No, I'm just running into things on the ground. This is going to be an experience where Alma caused Point Man's plane to crash, but you're not Point Man, and maybe that gets revealed later. It does look like your hands are different, and you don't feel like you are just the, by the end of that game, war-torn character. That was the time slowdown. Yeah. See, they're giving me prompts here for buttons that I mapped it to that are wrong. Which maybe that means if I had not tried... I thought I saw something down there. Maybe. Maybe that's a visual glitch, or maybe that's... Interesting. There's a church here. I don't think we saw a church at any previous point in the first game.
We made it to the roof. Man, it's dark.
Press use to mount the ladder. Where's the ladder? It's over here. So you're gonna get a little hand prompt. And we'll just slide down.
I'll drop a flare. We're going to make our way down the fire escape.
Interesting, the flashlight runs out of power. We've got all kinds of explosions happening. Just run through that room. I feel like this game just does not run smooth enough for me. Like, I don't know if there was something specifically in the first game that I was able to put up with, or if it is just that the programmers, Time Shift, that made this game were able to do something a little bit they did something different, and that difference changed the experience. Am I supposed to be able to pull myself out of here, or am I supposed to... No, this is where we started. I went in circles. And flashlight is a problem, to say the least. We need to... We'd very much like to see the game not give people infinite or extremely limited flashlight abilities. And here we've got some kind of noise playing every time we walk around certain areas, which makes it feel like. And then we have naked Alma and then little girl Alma, which that doesn't make any sense at all. As a horror jump scare, it doesn't really scare me, but we can hear our hearts are beating in the game. And they are, see, they want me to turn this off. They are, at the very least, being quicker about it. Like, the whole Alma as a little girl when she wasn't a little girl when she died, and so is that supposed to represent a loss of innocence? Maybe. Yeah.
Dead now.
And see,
To examine him.
Preemptive strike. Keep your radio on and we'll hook up down the road.
so they shot one of the replicas. Rendezvous with F.E.A.R in the SFOD, which SFODQ. A ton of noise. I forgot to turn down the audio. That was the other thing I needed to do. Sorry about that. That audio is too loud. Let's see, bring down that to that point, that to that point, and that to maybe even that point. So we can actually talk.
Oh, I sure as shit hope that wasn't our ride.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to really stick with the controller, if I just want to move over to WASD on this. I think the experience for WASD is going to be so much different.
Right.
And see, all of these
Apart from the obvious,
bad guys that you are fighting.
This city is empty.
there's been a radioactive element to the origin explosion and the city was evacuated.
Alma is freed.
Don't empty this quick.
And all these guys were being psychically controlled as clones. So there's like no enemies around to fight you at this point. And that seems like that's the wrong way to make a game. Certainly. We got a checkpoint there. Alma almost certainly has to now start playing a bigger role of controlling the bad guys, or you need to introduce some other bad guys. I mean, imagine these paintings would have been very fancy when this game came out. It's hard, certainly, to give a lot of credit, though, to such an old game. As by modern standards, it just doesn't make sense. So they're bringing back the guy?
I know it doesn't make sense. Not much does anymore. You killed me. I didn't like that.
What's funny is I've got the wrong controller enabled. The left trigger is firing. And this is totally not gonna work. Like, even on easy, the vast amounts of bullets I'm gonna end up taking here, I'm at like 60% health, is not gonna work. And controller support is just frankly non-existent here. And I pretty much hate the idea of playing a first-person shooter without controller support, even though for decades that was the snobbish way to certainly play first-person shooters, and certainly that would have been the target audience here. Would have been, oh, this game is on the Xbox 360, but honestly it was more designed for PC gamers and the PC master race, as it were. Like, even trying to zoom in here, the slowdown time is not that long. And here we've got things exploding and flying up to the sky, but I can't even really tell what it is. Oh, that was our way through. We're still getting a lot of quick loaders. Alright, so let's put down the controller. And let's grab the keyboard. And let's see what this feels like going forward with mouse and keyboard. Evade replica forces. So, let's see. What? Lean left, lean right is not Q. WASD makes sense. One assumes you're not going to die if you just fall straight down, but we'll come over here. Okay, I'm over here. Let's see. 1 is a gun select, 2 is a gun select, 3 is nothing, 4 is nothing. R seems to be nothing. Right click seems to be nothing. F seems to be nothing. Z is heal. X is flashlight. C is crouch. Okay, so there's basically keys all over the place. Crates with special markings contain supplies. Destroy the crates to get access to them. Okay. Mouse wheel will swap between guns. Where middle mouse button seems to do nothing. Q, Q, Q. It seems weird that Q wouldn't do anything. Tab brings up your display. Caps lock's not going to do anything. Shift's not going to do. Shift zooms you in. Controls slows down time. That's a weird placement. Alt does nothing. B and G. T is typing, and that paused the game. Interesting. Tilde. Alright. So, after all the settings and controls for configuring controls for the controller, we now have a question as to what did I disconnect the melee button with. Yeah, it must have been something. It must have been like, well, throw grenade is Q. So, we know X is something. Is C something? Yes. C was crouch. So C was crouch. And then is E something? Lean right. Let's, instead of making it be in lean right, let's make it melee. And then that pretty much means you don't have a lean right button at all, where it would make more sense for Q and E to be lean right buttons. So I'm not feeling like there's really a lot of difference here. As it were. Health boost permanently increase your health. Yeah, this kind of does not feel like there's that much of a difference. But which one was the slow down button? Which one is the flashlight button? That's a question. Yeah, you would have thought it was F, but it's not. So, do I want to go through all the buttons again and just hit buttons? Or do I want to just, once again, look at the controls? Come on, flashlight. X. Yeah, it doesn't make the most amount of sense. I think I will almost certainly have to change that fairly quickly. Like, I really would like infinite flashlight on easy mode. Honestly, let's just be honest here. I think it makes a lot more sense to simply turn up the gamma in total. But I am really running up to the edge here. Like, it's just, see, that was supposed to be barely visible. I couldn't see that at all. So if I even follow that instructions, then the gamma should be at that point for my vision. Yeah, that drastically changes the approach here, but then it makes it very much less of a spooky game because you are in a very well lit area at this point. And but that certainly negates the need for tons of flashlights. Oh good, the melee button opens doors. Then we don't have to do that anymore. I feel like they wanted you to bash the doors open. I feel like the problem with Extraction Point is just going to inherently be the fact that it's still basically on the same code line, and that if F.E.A.R 2 has any chance of being a lot more playable, it's going to be because it had that 2 extra years of release time, or at least 1 year of release time, to work on a bigger engine. Now I'm just running into chairs. Yeah. Alright, so slow down time. Which one? And see, that's a great example of the technology that they threw in here, where they programmed the characters to have good AI and know what you're doing and call out to their friends and warn and throw grenades, and frankly all of that is just like expected experience in a modern first-person shooter. So it's not doing anything particularly different. You also certainly run into an issue where, unlike a game like Half-Life 1, there's a lot less reverence for the F.E.A.R series. So it's very easy to just say no and move on with your life. It's very easy just to give this game a pass. Guess there's nothing special here. Does this explode? Nope. Doesn't explode into a ball of sparks or anything like that. And I guess anything that says danger might have something in it. It feels like it's going to be quite a while, if at all, if we're going to get any kind of different experience. Like, see, I have 2 health packs and don't know, you have to remember which button uses health packs. And that certainly was something that I recall from playing F.E.A.R 1, is that you were constantly having to balance and pick up the maximum amount of health packs. Fairly large explosions that shake your whole vision. Now have dual guns. Pick that up at some point. And doesn't seem like there's too much here. This really just feels like more of the same. We're seeing spooky ghosts things. I don't think there's really anything there. And unless they decide to go in a different direction here, you pretty much never shoot any of the spooky ghost things. Or at least I wouldn't think you shot any of the spooky ghost things. It's a fairly large TV. For the age that it looks like. You may shoot Alma at some point, and that might be it at the very end, which Alma clearly is not really a character that's going to be defeated, because she's gonna show up as, I guess, your antagonist for the trilogy. So something is shooting these guys. Is that our guy? Here we have like mines and grenades, and those are all things you could have used in the solo player mode of the main game, but honestly you really would not ever use them. This guy's shooting at me and literally just cannot hit me. I thought these guys were in different outfits, and that was an indication that they were on maybe my side, but I guess you can just fairly assume that nobody's in your side. So maybe the other guys in the green outfits were on your side, or maybe not, because in the main game I do recall there was a situation where you were fighting a lot of private security in the building, where you spent a huge amount of time in that building, seeing the exact same offices and hallways. But you were also fighting a lot of military clones. And they've kind of failed to interest me. Yeah. Let's see. Q's not working. I'm gonna run out of health packs. I have run out of health packs. go and switch to an assault gun because shooting with handguns is incredibly too slow, and everybody, even on the easiest difficulty, is a bullet sponge. R is reload. F seems to do nothing. V seems to do nothing. Z would heal you. Yeah, and Q is the slowdown time. Well, the Windows button wouldn't do anything, and the alt button doesn't seem to do anything. So, I have no idea what button is currently mapped to throw a grenade. And so I'd either have to go back into the grenade throwing menu and the options, or just give up on this game completely. And I'm not sure if we actually are going to get any specific end point, or if the game just goes forward in a straight linear experience the whole time. Yeah, I'm having a hard time figuring out which of these crates are the ones that break. There. We're seeing basically the same 2 or 3 paintings, which I suspect is just a lack of space, not a case of them trying to be thematic or subtly imply something. We're like in a wine cellar now. The sewers turned into a wine cellar a little too quick there. I guess we're in the basement of the church that somehow connects to other buildings. And same stairway. Well, we kind of have seen already. So, yeah, it definitely feels like we still are going to have a scenario here where we're just going to see the same thing over and over again. Maybe we will run into some invisible enemies. Those were certainly a thing. Maybe we'll run into some more armored enemies, more robotic enemies. But I suspect we're not really going to see a lot of difference, even with a different team working on it, on the game, and telling a slightly different story with a slightly different main character. So there we've transitioned from a sewer wine cellar into more of a mechanical, and I think I can hear some creepy little girl sound effects speaking to me in the back, in the sound effects. Some whispers. And yeah. What am I supposed to be doing here? Am I supposed to just wait till the flashlight's gone? Or am I supposed to open the door? Well, I'm just clipping through the door, so I don't know if I was supposed to be on the other side of that or what. But this does feel like we are in a different place, but no. I feel like I wasn't supposed to be able to clip through that. I see a light ahead. The flashlight's not working. So I guess I'm supposed to walk towards the light. Like, so that the whole section just did not work at all. So that whole spooky section just fails. And then it makes this whole other door open.
They got Jen. Those freaks fucking. She saw, I don't know what, in the shadows and went over to investigate.
Now we are in a underground building. Let's go and pick up all of those, even though still don't have a grenade throwing button assigned. Why is it so lit up over here? Because there's a light over there. Yeah. Unfortunately, an hour into this, I really feel like the only thing that you could call spooky or scary about this game is just how badly it runs nowadays. And just how bad it looks nowadays. So, I don't think that there's enough of a argument to make me want to keep playing this. Particularly since I found F.E.A.R 1 to be just too old also. Yeah, we wouldn't be saving checkpoints left and right like this unless the plan was that the game was going to go on forever. And we're going to just be wandering around this hospital. I mean, this church. And let's see. Hit the Q button. Wow. It's not even working. Let's see. I'm hitting the control button and it's not doing anything. And that guy's head stretched in a crazy direction. Churches can definitely be fairly creepy places. They're often too large and empty of people outside of their general convening times. So I kind of get the idea of the theme there. Will this break when I shoot it? Yes, it will. But this does not seem to be really going down the route of saying that this church that we ended up in actually has any like connection to Alma, and that this is some kind of more extreme cultish church that worships her or does anything nefarious. So unless the idea is that this is some church that Alma was taken to, as we see like a school that she was raised in, or she was taken to for, I guess, a brief time in future games. Like, I don't know if there is any kind of connection to Alma. And even if there was, I don't know if it's much of a connection. There is kind of a lack of religious iconography on the walls, which may again just be because of a lack of budget more than anything else. And this is going to give them an excuse. Yeah, I think you would probably want to break out of this whole facility and get outside the building if you could. Here's a wanted to test to see if this fire extinguishers exploded, and they do. This is also one of those games where I think if you run up to them and knock them over, that was how it worked in F.E.A.R 1. You killed them for considerably less effort than if you tried to shoot them. If you can walk up to them and knock them over. The game is being very generous. One assumes it's the police or the bad guys that brought the bullets and the guns, and not the church itself that had the guns in the church. Although, frankly, nowadays it's not super surprising to even hear that churches are and parishioners of churches are packing heat. It is slightly surprising on the theological turn the other cheek aspect, certainly, but it's not uncommon. Like, they're just trying to run up to me and melee me, and they're lining up and just being shot at. So as much as you might be able to sing the praises of the AI of them at this point, when this game came out, their AI 16 years later, or 15 years later, is laughable. It's terrible. I mean, you can't really expect anything much more, but you also can't come back and experience this for the first time like I am and say, oh, there's something here. Whereas I think maybe a more limited experience for something like Super Mario Brothers 1 still has some kind of experience that you can have, even as somebody who may have never played Super Mario Brothers. Or even I would think Resident Evil 1 is kind of in a place where it's been remade a couple times, but even if you were going to play the even if you were going to just try and play the original version of Resident Evil 1, there's possibly some more history to it there. There's a way I feel like you could overlook the jankiness of Resident Evil 1 way more than the jankiness of this game, because this game sold itself, or feels at least like it sold itself completely on the AI and graphics, and so it doesn't really have a great level design by any means. It's awful and repetitive. It doesn't have great story. It doesn't have that much of a fandom, so it becomes incredibly difficult to say, hey, yeah, this is something worth playing. Wow, the guns just were floating in the air for a second as it was saving. Yeah, this church has this angel that shows up multiple times. But it does just kind of feel like there we go, we shoot him. Can't open that door, interesting. So we are going to just, I guess, be chasing after the ghost of the bad guy who was Not that interesting. Can't open that door either. Throughout the entirety of this expansion. So you're basically kind of doing the same thing. Here we hear more static on the radio, which is probably not supposed to mean anything.
Don't let them hurt me.
And see, that is definitely the experience I thought we were having with the F.E.A.R series, is that we were supposed to...
Here we are, brother. I seem to be a little worse for the wear. And you are prey.
It's just basically
The two of you alone.
just a hallucination the whole time. Then we have fire and the ghosts, and we didn't see these ghosts until I guess I'm supposed to be running away from her. We didn't see those ghosts until like really late in the experience. We really don't know what the fire aspect of this is supposed to be. I was supposed to just, I guess, shoot her for a while so I could escape. And then, hey, I guess that's interval 2 flight. So maybe there's only 3 intervals and it's fight, flight, or acceptance. That might be the case. F.E.A.R Technical Office Jin Soo Kwan has been seized by enemy forces. Holiday is moving towards your position. Make your way through the nearby warehouse district. Locate him. Mission rendezvous with Holiday in the warehouse district and effect a plan to rescue Jim Soo Kwan. Okay. So this may not be much of an expansion, really. It may very well just be that they wanted you to go through one story where you're in a church, which, and then one story where you're going to be in a warehouse district, and then probably another level where you're somewhere else.
You got more of those freaks heading your way.
The target is heading your way. Roger that.
Get in the building. I'll meet you on the other side.
And was I supposed to smash this? Yep. And was I supposed to smash this? Yep. I think you're supposed to also pick up guns, which I'm not even sure what button would have been the pickup button, gun button. Like, because that would have had to been the use button, and I've just been using the melee button for the use button. Yeah. Yeah, that's enough for me. I think this makes a good enough spotlight of F.E.A.R extraction point. Like, I don't think that there's enough reason to play F.E.A.R extraction point. We'll look and spotlight the other part of the game, Perseus Mandate, the other expansion made by the same company that made Extraction Point, but we probably won't play that either. And then we'll just jump to F.E.A.R 2 Project Origin, where we may also just want to spotlight that too, even though I would like to stay with the main story and see what Point Man's part of the story really is. It's F.E.A.R 1 has not left the greatest of impression on me. It's been a long time since I played F.E.A.R 1 too, probably 6 months to a year. So yeah, it definitely didn't leave a lasting reflection. But my hope would be F.E.A.R 2 would just play better and have controller support. Controller support is about 55% of the issue, certainly. If I can lean back and relax and play a first-person shooter with a controller, it's way better than having to have a lean forward controller, mouse and keyboard experience, where then I have to figure out what every single button around WASD does. But also, F.E.A.R 2 may just be too old. Also, F.E.A.R 3 may be too old. And the whole series may very well just be better off forgotten to the sands of time or remastered. And frankly, it's well past the point where if they were to make a remaster, they could take that general concept and move forward. Although the general concept of F.E.A.R is just a horror game where you're a first-person shooter and you're shooting things, seeing spooky things, where there are plenty of games like that, such as Dead Space and tons of others that don't immediately come to mind. So I don't know if there really is enough of a reason to reboot the F.E.A.R name other than to keep the copyright, compared to simply just making your own new series that would be a competitor to something like Resident Evil, where even Resident Evil goes in different directions with bigger monsters and its own twist on its world settings and its style of comedy. Anyways, that's going to be it for the spotlight. I have no desire to go any further. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.